Customer said I must not know my boss very well. I work for my dad. Pretty great story from work this morning where I got to one-up this guy. So I'll start by saying I work for my dad at his store. I work the front counter and interact with most people, customers. Also, I look a lot more like my mom. My dad runs a separate business as well, but anybody who needs to talk to him for either business can usually find him in the office here. So this guy shows up this morning looking pretty ruffled and asks if my dad was here. I replied, "You just missed him. He is out for the morning doing a couple things." He was very displeased by this information and was acting very loud, unprofessional. He started looking around the store and eventually came back to the front counter with a piece of equipment that he wanted to trade for some work that he apparently did for him before. Keep in mind, I know most of my dad's workers have never seen this guy before. I told him that I don't do any negotiations while he's not there and I can't just let him leave the store with something for free. I told him that normally he probably wouldn't want to take that route, but he was welcome to discuss it with him once he's back. He looked at me and replied, "You're making a big mistake here and you must not know, blank, very well, because you would do this for me and blah blah blah." I just looked at him and replied, "I actually do know him quite well, seeing as he is my father." I told him that he could either leave or wait for me dad to get back. He kind of looked up at me and was pretty speechless. I could tell he felt stupid and regretted his comment. He ended up waiting around in his truck for my dad to show up, and guess what? He wasn't gonna do a trade. It's almost like I know my boss well. Apparently the guy just worked like 2 days for him and then quit. Plus the thing wanted was way more expensive than what he was out. Side note, the pay wasn't made yet because we are bi-weekly. I swear some of the people around here are nuts. But a petty, "Don't you know who I am?" moment made my day. Sorry, I'm fat. Have 2 stories today that have me feeling low yet victorious. I have birthed 2 large babies, my first in 2018, almost 8 pounds, and my second in 2020, almost 9 pounds. Add in COVID, my oldest, who was adopted, and a foster kiddo for a while. Needless to say, I've had trouble losing weight and reducing my mom pooch. But I've been working on it pretty hard the past few months, and I'm now noticing that a lot of my clothes are getting looser. I decided to reward myself by getting some new clothes that fit better. At one store, I was simply looking at some clothes when I overheard a guy say, "Man, why do people look at skimpy clothes when they clearly don't have the body for it?" I subtly sneak a peek and I see him giving angry looks at me. I'm the only other person in this section other than, I'm assuming, his wife. Now, not trying to body shame, but this guy had no room to be talking. He was over here looking like Winnie the Pooh with several inches of his massive stomach on display. I sweetly turned to him and said, "I popped out 2 big babies. What's your stomach's excuse?" His wife just about died laughing as this guy turned purple. Later at another store trying on some dresses. IT zone of those stores where they have a mirror in the dressing room, but have the better multi-sided mirror and better light outside of the dressing room. I popped out to check myself in the better mirror when a woman came over excitedly and said, "Ooh, congrats on the baby." I was obviously not thrilled because it is a bit of a sore spot with me that I do still look pregnant after all this time. But instead I just said, "Thanks." She was born in 2020. The woman's face fell and she scampered off. Moral of the stories: keep your mouth shut about other people's bodies. I got the kid permanently, you go the car. Temporarily. I'll make it short. GF gets pregnant. Do the right thing and stick by her. We have the kid. She starts going out all the time and would occasionally get calls at the house by guys looking for her. I knew she was cheating but didn't really care. I was just there to make sure the kid was well taken care of. Get a new job out of state and hoping that being there away from her bar friends will make us closer. Nope. She finds a new boyfriend quick. Tries to hide it, but she sucks at lying and hiding things. Again, no care for me. By now my kid and I are very bonded, and even at 18 months it's obvious he doesn't much care for her either. Came home from a trip. Can't find my kid. Walk into my bedroom and there she and her boyfriend are having a nice little romp. Now this was in the days before cell phones and we lived on the 3rd floor, so there was no escaping the bedroom without coming through the living room, so I just said, "When you 2 are done, I'll be in the living room," and walked out. 3 hours and a lot of whispering later, they emerge. Walk the guy to the parking lot and explain to him I'm not mad at him, but be decent. And don't UCK in my house anymore and stay out of my beer. Go back upstairs, tell her to go get Myson. Next day I get a new apartment and move out in 3 hours while she was at boyfriend's house and took the kid. Day after I filed for divorce and got full custody, which I won full after 2 years of legal wrangling. Granted, child support was jack hit, but it paid for beer for the next 18 years. I supported my kid. I never raised it on her because I'm a decent guy, but it was fun rubbing it in her face when she got out of line that I spent it on frivolous stuff for myself and bought him all of his clothes, toys, food, etc., out of my own pocket. It always made her fume for a few days. In hindsight, I should have put it into a savings account for him, but we all make mistakes in life. Now, I had purchased her a Toyota Accord before we moved that we shared, but in the divorce she wanted the car, which I gladly gave her. Then I moved back to my state, in with my parents, and started life over. A few months go by and I start getting calls at work from the credit company demanding payment that was overdue. I explained numerous times that the vehicle was legally hers now and I would not be paying. Most of these guys were holes, but one day a very low-key guy called and said, "Look, we're just trying to work something out because we can't locate her." "Oh well, why didn't you say so? Here's where she's living. The plate number ISKS and I have it on good authority, she is home." Right now, she didn't have a job. About 3 hours later my phone rings and it's Heron, she is ISSED, asking me if I told them where the car was because they just repoed and towed it. "Yep," I say with a smug grin. "Something you need to learn is, if you don't pay your bills, you don't get to keep your stuff. By the way, my lawyer is paid off. How's yours doing?" Click. That was a great day. Cheat on me? Good luck using your account. Here's some background. I was with my ex for almost 4 years. He was a good guy up until a year before we broke up, when he started cheating on me. When we finally broke up, I was able to get some revenge. One year for Christmas, I got him a used PS4. We set up our accounts in such a way that mine was the parent account and his was the child, so he could play my games. Another feature of this setup was that the parent account can lock the child account out of playing. He knew this when we set ITUP and said it didn't bother him. When we broke up, he refused to stop playing the games I bought for him on my account, claiming he couldn't stop. Soon after that, I locked everything on his account. His account will automatically log out if he tries, and he can't do anything to stop it. Before anyone says anything, I paid for everything when it came to that console. All of his games, his membership, everything. He was unemployed for most of our relationship and never paid for his own things. And Jay, if you ever read this, F you. After 20 years, I put the PettyRevenge cherry on top of a baby poo sundae. We had a family gathering over Easter, including my Auntie Dot and her daughter, Louise, and Louise's family. Auntie Dot isn't related to us. She's married to my Uncle Len, who came out to Australia on the same ship as my dad, and they've been like brothers ever since. I'm going to be blunt. I don't like Louise. If I had my own way, I'd have nothing to do with her. But I love my aunt and uncle, and I'm Uncle Len's medical decision maker, so I have to suffer her presence. Uncle Len is in a nursing home because of his frail health. If I gave you the full list of my reasons for disliking Louise, I'd never get to the petty revenge. But here are the edited highlights. She does mean and hurtful hit, and then brushes it off with, "But I didn't mean Ian to," or "I was only trying to help," or "But I'm just saying what I feel." Including the time she tried to stop my sisters from going to my mum's funeral 20 years ago, because they're fostered and not real family. The irony has been noted. She's also an Olympic hopeful in the heavyweight competitive child-raising event. Auntie Dot and Louise arrived with a frilly green dress and matching bloomers for my 6-month-old, Vampira. She has 2 teeth and likes fingers. While I was settling the adult guests in and handing out chocolate ovoids to the younger kids, my partner Martin dressed Vampira in her new outfit. She looked like an adorably cross frog in a frock. Auntie Dot had a cuddle and asked Louise to take a couple of photos. Then Louise wanted a cuddle and started rattling on about how Vampira was 6 months old and can't sit up unaided, but her wonder kids, aged 5 and 7, were sitting up and playing the grand piano at 4 months. Okay, I'm exaggerating. They don't have a grand piano. When Vampira started getting squirmy and irritable, Martin said she probably had a tummy ache and tried to take her back. Louise kept saying she was good with babies and she would soon get Vampira settled. Martin and I were telling Louise in increasingly loud and firm tones to give her back, and Louisa kept insisting Vampira would settle down for her. After a while, Vampira relaxed and gave Louise a toothy smile. Louise beamed back and said, "See, I told you." I remember getting a look from Martin that said, "Well, we tried." Seconds later, Louise shoved a wailing Vampira back at Martin and printed for the bathroom. You see, what I hadn't told Louise was that we've been introducing cereals into Vampira's diet, because a growing baby cannot live on fingers alone, and it hasn't been going well. Vampira had unleashed a punami, which leaked out of her nappy, up the back of the new dress, and onto Louise. And it was one of her most odoriferous efforts yet. Martin did a clean-up and complete outfit change, and gave Vampira her favorite teething dragon, so she was soon happy-ish. But the green dress and bloomers were beyond saving, and Louise's top might not make it either. All of which could have been Avoided if she'd just handed Martin the baby when he'd asked. So's Lou, but I'm not paying for a new top. But the PettyRevenge cherry on top of the baby poo sundae came at dinner. The meal started with pureed veggie soup, and my middle sister asked if Louise wanted to feed Vampira, seeing as you are good with babies. Louise angrily declined. I pretended to pout and accused Louise of hurting Vampira's feelings, saying, but she didn't mean to. I'd been waiting nearly 20 years for my chance to say that back to Louise and it felt good. Edited to remove dumb spelling mistakes.